I'm Todd Truax. I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives, 19th Congressional District. My opponent is Francis Rooney. There's going to be a Democratic primary for the first time in over 2 decades. So I need your vote in August, and then you get to vote again in November. I'm a nursing home administrator and social worker. I've been working down here for 20 years, taking care of seniors and disabled and folks going through recovery and rehab for substance abuse and different issues. I even supervise foster homes for kids in the area, and my focus is on healthcare. So I've been learning a lot from Jim and John and quite a few other water experts from the Calusa Blue Ways group and the Sanibel folks, and they've been educating me on littoral shelves and water flow and sheet flow, and I'm really grateful for their expertise. John he's a little shy. He didn't talk about he's doing a demonstration on the bridge over to Fort Myers Beach on Saturday at noon. Everybody's making a sign, and they're going to line the bridge, coming and going, to demonstrate for clean water. We got to get the message out. We got to get those folks that are apathetic to care about the water that we're swimming in and fishing in, and it's important because it's our livelihoods. I'm running healthcare facilities. I've taken care of shrimpers who got necrotizing fasciitis. And what that is that flesh-eating disease. So as our water temperatures go up, that bacteria also increases. They've already had a case in Sarasota where somebody contracted that disease, and if you don't mop off ahead of that growth, it'll eat you alive. And it's pretty scary. The guy was in his 30s. We were taking care of him, and he survived with some fingers. But it's just an open cut or wound, or you bite your fingernails too much to the quick, and all of a sudden you got a spot for it to get into you. So it's really, it could be deadly, and not just swimming in poop. And so it's really important to pay attention to these things. My opponent, Mr. Rooney, thinks by riding in a helicopter and flying out to the Everglades and catching a snake in the middle of the night, he's cleaning up the Everglades. That's just not the way it's done. And we really need to pay attention to the source of these problems. And the cows are a big part of that. Mr. Roach has taught me a lot about that. I remember when I go to the rest area down in the middle of the Everglades, there's that brass map that shows the topographic map of the state of Florida. And you can see how there's not that much high ground until you get up by the villages or just outside of Orlando before you see any kind of topography to the state at all. And we're all just on this sandy peninsula that has got water underneath us and water coming across the top. And well, I think when the hurricane hit Irma, we heard they're talking about a 10-foot storm surge, and we're elevated at 10 feet ourselves. And so we scurried. I don't know if you guys were all here for the hurricane. I was here for Charlie too, and Irma, and I hope it's a while yet before the next one comes. One of the other things about the flow for the Everglades, there's a Kissimmee River, and what they've done is basically they made it a straight shot to the Lake Okeechobee, and what they've decided is that's not such a good thing. So what they're going to add is a bunch of oxbows in the Kissimmee River to slow down the river, slow down the flow, and then at each of those bows, those bends in the river, those nutrients and the pollutants will gather up at the oxbows, so that doesn't flow and fill up into the Lake Okeechobee. So that's one of those structural changes. The funding's been approved, but they haven't really started construction yet, and that's underway right now.
Is that a state or federal?
State, I believe. I got more slides coming. Let's see how this works here. I'm a big pictures guy. So not only do we have the risk of the issue of where the water goes from inside, from all the different rains that we have, we also have the sea level risks that are the sea level rises. In Miami, they're seeing the water coming right up out of the sewer system during the high tides. It's not during the storm, and they're building right along the very edge of the coastlines, and that's a big concern. And here we are, right around here. That's pretty red. I don't know what our elevation is here. What, 5, 6 feet? It's that. It's that. So we need to pay attention to these things before they get, because it's going to not only affect our tourism and our beaches. We keep renourishing these beaches, which apparently we're not allowed on. If it's a private beach and it's not wet, and I don't like seeing all these truckloads of sand being dumped on the beaches, and then I don't get to walk on the beach to get the shells. I don't think that's quite so fair. Of course, Mr. Rooney likes it because he's down there in Port Royal. These are the aquifers that we're drinking out of. There's the Florida aquifer, the superficial aquifer, the Biscayne aquifer. This is the one that's having the most issues right now because the salt water is underneath and it's coming up and mixing more with the fresh water. And so if you don't have anything to drink, and it's going to be all, we're going to have to start building desalination plants or something just to have water for ourselves and our golf courses and our pretty lawns. But this is where we're getting our water from. Right now in Bonita Springs, the big thing is the DRGR, the Designated Water Resource Regeneration. So when we get our water, it flows through the 6 Mile Cypress Slough. It comes down through the back of Bonita Springs. And they're approving more and more developments along that way. There's a Bonita National that they just put right up alongside the Corkscrew Sanctuary way out. And it goes right up to it with a golf course. And you have to go way up Bonita Beach Road. And it's on the very edge, the end of Bonita Beach Road, very edge of that sanctuary. We're messing with Mother Nature a little more than we should. And there's going to be repercussions. The dairy farms, I found this is from the Dairy Farm Association. It shows where all those little dairy farms are scattered out throughout the state. That's straight from their website. And you see that the water's flowing, following that topography, that's washing right down our way. So I love this idea that it's already mandated in Iowa. I think Jimmy did a field trip out there too, didn't you, to see it in action?
Yep.
Yeah, so those were his pictures that he's been out there, he's seen the real thing. And so if we get rid of those lagoons of manure, and use them because we've got all those citrus farms here and the tomatoes and we can fertilize all those crops and not have to dig up the phosphates and the nitrates and spread them along the top surface. We can inject them in straight to the roots. And we're all better for it. For every penny they spend, they get 2.5 back. So that's a pretty good return on their investment. The sugarcane and sod farm is right along the bottom here. We've got our orange groves in different areas around the state, and if we could take that manure, look how close it is, to transfer it over to these sugar canes or the groves, the orange groves, they're not that far away from each other to transfer. You can put in the big tanker, not the same one we use for our milk, and then bring it over and use it on the crops. This is how the flow used to go. So you got Lake Okeechobee at the top, Caloosahatchee and the St. John, is it? St. Lucie. It goes out to Stewart and Hope Sound, which is a gorgeous area in Jupiter. Those folks pay attention to their environment because they're paying top dollar. It's like their Naples up there. And this is the way the flow used to go. The Sawgrass Marsh is the orange. The Lily area is the blue. Wet Prairie is the purple. Cypress Forest was the red. And the Marsh Prairies was this green area down here. That's part you drive through when you go to the Alligator Alley and 41. I like the scenic route at 41. You get to go see Clyde Butcher's place. I think these are his too on the wall. Cool guy. He just had a setback recently. My kids and I, we did the swamp walk. We do the muck around, chest deep. I got my wife from New York to do that, and you know, the spiders are this big, you know, and you're walking up alongside. But I'm a big orchid fan, so we got to see the ghost orchids. And then the swamp forest was in the yellow. That's where I got my alligator. My son and I did a Lako field trip, rite of passage thing. And so we got a couple 8'9" and 6'8" gators. So I got belts and shoes, a calendar too. So also for my son and my father. So that's how it used to flow, and that's how we'd like to return it. This is what it is now. Thanks to the Army Corps of Engineers. After a terrible storm, I couldn't find the article, I didn't have much time. There was a huge flood after, I think, Hurricane Donna, and quite a few people, I think about 1,000 died, when the water just gushed down and drowned the folks in Lewiston and Belglade and those different areas. So the water was diverted, it was engineered. And so this new engineering sends a lot of it this way, a lot of it that way, down the Caloosahatchee to St. Lucie, and then through all these different canals, which dried up a lot of land, but the water is funneled into a smaller area, so we don't have that sheet flow that we used to have before. So that whole Marjorie Stoneman Douglas river of grass, that gentle flow, that really was clear and beautiful, and it's still some places it is. You can see 4 feet through the water to the frogs and the tadpoles through. It's pretty amazing. But that natural flow is and the drought cycle has been exaggerated. So there's extremely wet years, there's extremely dry years. We get these fires that spread all over the place. And really we need to go back to the way it was as best as we can. We don't want to have those floods that kill folks in Lewiston, but the water depths have changed. I've noticed in 20 years that I've been here, I don't see as many migratory. The snowy egrets and the wood storks and the flamingos I still haven't seen. There are still some down here in Flamingo. There's a little town called Flamingo if you go visit. But I did see a spoonbill in my neighborhood. In Bonita, that's pretty rare. Nutrients from the farmlands get flushed into the Everglades. So if we divert this natural flow of water that we get every year, the rainy season, right? We carry our sunglasses and our umbrellas. If we just let that flush go through, things will be pretty clean, pretty quick. What we just have to do is stop putting all those pollutants down and nutrients, the phosphates and the nitrates that we're putting out. So here's this looks very toxic or radioactive, doesn't it? This is the phosphate industry, right? So there's 10 million people depend on the Florida aquifers, the one I showed you all the different aquifers, as their primary source of drinking water. And look what we got right here, where all those folks are concentrated, is a phosphate mining. There's another phosphate mine up there near Jacksonville. And all that phosphate, that bubbly stuff that they put in your soap detergent, is mined all over here and then scattered across the top of the crops so that they can fertilize them. So these are the more vulnerable areas of the dark red, less so in the orange, and then even less so in the yellow. Dairy farms. So Jim goes on. I like the little graphic here. There's the cows in the tiny little circle, and there's the pile of poop. So that's a cow. That's the satellite view on the farm, and that's the manure. A big, wide open pit, bigger than the cows, bigger than the farm, and and then you can imagine that scattered all around where our water flow goes. We're asking for it, and so instead of being open to that brown in our water is not just mangrove leaves, breaking up. That's what's happening down carrying our water. It's kind of gross after watching that, but we can do something about it. There's a nice little house on the prairie. There's one of those manure lagoons. That's what the term is for me. And we can fix this. We can save. We can make money. Just like we have migrant farmers that come and pick our crops or take care of our cows or pick the oranges off the trees. We can have folks bring the equipment here, throw it in the lagoon, pump it into a truck, and then fertilize the crops elsewhere. And there's money to be made doing that. Here's the U.S. sugar properties. Lewiston is right around here. And all we got to do is buy the land and let the flow go south as it was originally. Everybody's National Park. But how many fires are going on right now in Picayune Strand and the Big Cypress? We can fix this. So one of the things as a federal level I can do is we can do a feasibility study. So we can just pay for one farm and one dairy farm, and we can do one citrus grove or sorghum field or tomato plantation or whatever, and we can do a study, and we can just see how it works for one. And once we demonstrate that, because it's already been done in Iowa and Ohio and everywhere else, then all those other folks can say, hey, I don't have to pay to dig up the phosphates, I don't have to pay for the bags of nutrients, I got it right here down the street from my farmer friend. And I'll give them free milk or whatever, or free tomatoes, and then they'll work their own thing out. But we can do something right away, instead of just waiting again. So I'll still be on that bridge waving my sign, because that's all I can do really right now. But come January, we can do these kind of changes right away. So I need your help. I'm running against the billionaire. Yard signs cost money, websites cost money. Whatever you can do to help. Votes are most important. I'm running on votes. I'm not taking any money from Big Sugar, from the NRA, from any those big groups. I take $5 to whatever folks contribute. I ran the campaign on my 401k originally because I didn't want to ask anybody for anything. Really, I think there's way too much money in politics, and for me to ask for money in politics, it defeats the whole purpose. But if we just pool our $10 together or whatever, that'll make the difference to get us over the hump. There's no way I plan to outspend Mr. Rooney, the billionaire who spent $3 million or $4 million of his own money to win the seat that pays $174,000 a year. But the payoff in the legislation he passed helps him for generations with the death tax that's been lifted and the tax reform bill that wound up $1.5 trillion. And so that's going to affect us for generations, unless we get regular folks to get in there and make.
And after he's gets out of government, he'll get a good lobbying job for a lot more than $75,000.
That's the weird thing. People say, oh, he doesn't take NRA money because he gives money to the NRA. He funds other candidates. He bought his position as the ambassador. His home in Naples he bought for $15 million and he improved it for $5 million. So he gets to write off that $5 million every year. He doesn't have to pay taxes on it. So that's what I'm up against. Yes?
You're elected as a representative going forward.
Yes, sir.
In January. All surface waters in the United States are regulated by the EPA. And how would you go about pressuring the EPA to enforce the regulations on the state of Florida?
I'm a big science buff, right? So I grabbed these, as a matter of fact, because these are at home. This one looks like an iceberg, but it's really a plastic bag floating on the water, and I have this one too, on the lionfish. Right now, the director of the science program is a guy with a bachelor's in political science. Honest to God, I laughed out loud when I read that. We have people put in place in office that their job is to dismantle the office they've been put in place in charge of. And so there are oversight committees that overview the health and human services, the finance, the budget, and those folks get called to the carpet in those hearings. And I've seen it in action. I went up there in October, and I'm going there again Father's Day for a couple days. I'm advocating with the Alzheimer's Association. So I've got to, and the one way we can make that difference is if we take that blue bag, or we go in and it's clusters. So if there's a group of Florida congressmen, a group of Florida congressmen join with a group of Kentucky or Tennessee congressmen, and we advocate for water, and we advocate for the EPA, and we join forces that way, we're stronger in numbers. Because being just one guy, I'm just a guy on the bridge waving a sign. Right? Same thing in Congress. I'll be one of 435 people waving a sign. But if I get with like-minded folks in different areas, and we partner together, that's where the strength is in numbers. And that's where we're going to carry the punch. So I'm good at that. I'm a social worker, so I can find common ground. The other differentiating factor for me is 30 years, I was an independent. I didn't think either party was right all the time, ever. As an independent, though, I helped with Obama's campaigns twice, with Kerry's campaign, with Hillary's campaign. I was a big fan of Bernie. I even was helping a woman run for mayor in Cleveland before I left there 20 years ago. So if I believe in the person and the issue, they get my support. Elizabeth Benequisto, a lot of people can't stand her, but she was helping nursing homes. So I was welcoming her in my place. I go visit her in Tallahassee. I can work across the lines. I'm not going to be lockstep, and I'm certainly not going to vote for anything I haven't read. They're going to be waiting a long time if they're going to try and pass something 2,000 pages long. So that's the difference that you're going to see. And I'm not beholden to anybody, but the people here, the people that vote, that's who I'm beholden to. I'm not for sale. And that's why I'm running, because I see too many people selling their souls because they're going to get a fancy gig, or they're promised a lobbying job at a think tank down the road. Yes?
What are the boundaries of this district?
This district goes from Marco Island to Boca Grande, Gulf of Mexico to 75, sort of. The bottom half of Lehigh, and Bonita Springs all the way other side of the freeway. So Sanibel, Captiva, Bonita, Naples, Estero, San Carlos, Fort Myers, not North Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Pine Island, about it. Yeah, that's the district. So, historically, the district has always gone 65-35. I need 16% difference to make that 51%. How we're going to do that is get folks to vote. If we got folks to vote, the turnout is usually low, although there's a governor's up for grabs, and there's a senator up for grabs. That might help a little bit. But we got to bring our friends. We got to make sure our friends are registered. Just yesterday it was the 50-day mark to make sure your voter registration's up to date. You want to vote by mail. Vote by mail turnout is at 90-some%. If you vote at the polls, it's like 60 to 70-some%. So if you know go to everybody you know and say vote by mail, you're going to get a better turnout. The other key thing is I need more Democrats for this primary. I think I'll have a larger draw with the independents and the Republicans. I have independents, Republicans, and Libertarians on my team, on my executive committee. They're out there stumping for me because they realize that their party's not all that right either. There's a big Trump supporter on my team too. Got a bumper sticker. He still wants me to win. And I need that.
But how do you persuade that side of
That's how we do it. And some of those folks are dyed in the wool. And I've learned not to denigrate, judge, because those folks, I have the perspective that they've been taken advantage of. So those folks that won't change their mind, I don't try to change their mind. There's no changing it. I show sympathy or empathy. I show understanding. I don't try to belittle. I show them my side, and then let them decide for themselves. But once you've already been taken advantage of, you see folks like seniors that are swindled, right? I went to a training on that recently. Seniors that are taken advantage of, they fall for some scam on the phone and they're sending money to their grandkid or whatever. They feel like they were cheated and taken advantage of, and they don't want to admit it. And so you don't want to beat them up for that. We all make mistakes, and we all fall for cons. These are professional con artists that rob, heads of state and CEOs, and they're practiced and professional at it. So if we fall victim, and we just move on. But you can't berate these folks. Do you have a question?
Okay, I understand the water issue in Lee County is the main issue. It has been for many years, and I have participated within events here, of course. But the thing is that even right here in Lee County, across the street, if these people don't go to the beach, they don't see it as an issue. And if Lee County itself does not see it as an issue, how are you going to get them to back you? There's what's the percentage of the people that actually see the water issue as an issue?
That's why I'm having town halls. I'm having town halls on healthcare. I'm having town halls on water. I'm having town halls on the economy because everybody's got their own different issue. Some folks need to pay attention to all the issues and pick their candidate that way. Other folks go by one issue only. They don't get to X, Y, Z. They stop at X. Your stance on abortion is what? Next candidate. Your stance on DACA is what? Next candidate. And so those folks, you're just not going to get through to. Because if I don't check that first box for them, they're not going to look at the other three boxes. They're looking at the next candidate. So I can't be all things to all people. And not being for sale, I can say where I stand, and people make their decision based on that. But I'm certainly not going to buy those TV commercials.
I think, if I can jump in there, I think what Barbara's getting at, and maybe I'm wrong, but if I can chime in, we've been at this for quite a number of political cycles, and what we see is in Lee County, the target that's being missed when it comes to politics. Water is the #1 issue in Lee County. That's a fact.
And it's got to be an economic issue too.
Yeah, so
that's the thing.
So all of our last political opponents who have run against people like Radel and Clausen, and Clausen kind of got in there by default. But they hopped around and jumped around certain issues where sure you want to have like that all dynamic thing, but I couldn't agree more. What I think she's getting at is that to win this seat, you have to make water the #1 issue in Lee County.
But then to be able to fund all these different projects It's the economy. So that's what's that line? Is the economy stupid? And so that's why my next one, big one, is on the economy, because if we don't have a fair tax system where everybody pays their fair share, where everybody feels like they're contributing to the economy, and they feel like other people are finding a shortcut. So the economy is how you fund the healthcare issues and the environmental issues and the school issues that I also want to pay attention to. So the economy is right. Yes,
Clean water is an economic issue.
you're right.
I mean, the idea that agriculture has more power than tourism. Tourism is way more important to Florida.
You're right.
We don't have the lobbying power, Cleve.
Right.
Well, you know, I moved here 2 years ago when we bought a house on the canal. That water is black. Okay? I'm selling my house and I'm out of here. I mean, this is a disaster waiting to happen.
You're right.
And it's not just about clean water and tree huggers and all that stuff. It's about dollars and cents. People are gonna lose their jobs.
You're right.
They're
The
gonna lose
economy,
their houses.
the economy, the real estate, the tourism, they're all tied in
Right.
to that. Because if the water's not pretty, I don't want to live on it.
That's
I don't
right,
want to
or
smell it if
something,
it's stinky, and I'm not going to go swim in it if I don't trust it.
That is right.
You're right. And so the water affects us all, whether we're just here for a weekend or if we're here for our retirement.
But
You're
can't you
absolutely
mean
right.
that their own policies, in other words, government that thinks like business? In other words, they're the business-minded people, right? So you say, hey, government that thinks like business, because remember, you're going to save them a penny on the common river. You're going to increase the economy because you're going to clean the water. I mean, can we think and push and beat them at their own politics?
That helps, but then there's those special interests. And so we need to remove that whole Citizens United special interest thing out of there. Because that's what's really pulling the marionette strings. That's what shuts up Marco Rubio. That's what shuts up Putnam and Scott. Those are the folks that are really pulling the strings. Those are the folks that are paying for those commercials. Those commercials that go on and on. And the robocalls. And so it's the folks in this room that got to make that difference. We got to overrule that. And so
But you got to
become your own
15
advocate.
points to overcome. So you got to get those 15 points to think it's good for the economy, it's good for it. So you got to give them their own medicine.
Yeah. And so of course I'm going to use Rooney Parker to beat him up. Beat himself up because he's talking about how he wants to help the veterans, but then they cut the veterans benefit.
Right.
He talks about how he wants to cut Planned Parenthood, but then he also cuts the children's health insurance. He says how Obamacare is dying on the vine, but then he cuts out the individual mandate, which kept it alive and makes the rates go high. So those kind of things, he makes himself an easy target. He makes it very, yes, sir.